So when are we starting? And are you drinking whiskey?
We are.
Yes.
I
But
mean,
feel free, to pour yourself a glass of whatever you...
Who are you to make their lives bitter in hard bondage? Man shall be ruled by law, not by the will of other men.
hi, and welcome to Talk About Israel and Stuff. My name is Tzach, Gefen, your host, and with me, as always, in the studio, my good friend and co-host, Mike Leipson.
Hello.
With us today in the studio, or via a Skype call, is our
Technology.
friend, Gal Benron. Is that right?
That's my full real name, but nobody knows me by that name. I am.
okay, nobody
I'm the
knows
artist,
us.
I'm the artist currently known as Gal Bepole.
Gal Bepole, okay.
Yeah, or Gal Bepole. That's my social media handle.
How do you spell that in English?
I just
B-I-
learned the term handle, by the way,
Yeah?
from an American dude.
Like a CV.
I was like-
Yeah, it comes from
CV
CB radio. Yeah. What's your handle?
Good buddy.
Wait, Gal Bepole, how do you spell that like in English? Like B-I-P-O. How does that work?
No, be yourself, but Bepole. So the story behind it is a sad story of a 23-year-old gal that was really, really, really into pole dancing, and I was doing it very, very intensely. That was 6 or 7 years ago. I had just graduated from university. I got my bachelor's, and I was looking for a job, and I was worried. Back then, people didn't know pole dancing is a sport as much as they do now.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried that future employers will see it and like not want to give me a job because I pole dance and make some assumptions. So as I said, I was really into pole dance. So I took the first 2 letters of my last name, which is B-E,
Yeah.
and I just attached pole. And I've been stuck with it ever since.
Well, it doesn't seem like
But
that,
you know
that has
what?
you too down.
It's much better than Ben Ron. You know, it's more pronounceable in English. It's a bit sexier.
Yeah. And
So-
it does remind, it's like making yourself a brand.
Yeah.
Making people know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of like social networks, I wouldn't mind giving like a sandwich plug like in the beginning, and then like so you're so you do basically you're a twerk instructor. I wouldn't say like you're dance instructor. You do dancing, but then mainly twerking.
I only do twerking now.
Okay,
I
okay.
used to do pole dance, and years before that, I used to do Latin dances. But right now, the only dance that I teach is twerk.
All right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced to twerk maybe 6 months before the West did. So it was like I went to Jamaica when I was when it was like 2012 or something, and then like 6 months later, everybody's twerking. And when I was there, I was like, I had no idea what this thing was, and
What was happening?
it was ridiculous. And the clubs in Jamaica, they're just
Oh yeah, they're
insane.
super extreme.
Oh my god, have you ever you've probably been, right?
I haven't been to Jamaica yet.
Oh, you would love
but
it. You'd absolutely love it.
It's on my wish list.
I was with
Anybody-
I was with
Her?
another dance instructor. She was from Poland, and she was
Dance hall?
2 months there alone in Kingston. Ridiculous. Amazing
Wow.
stuff. Amazing stuff. Yeah.
I was a little bit behind the rest of the world. I was surprisingly in like 2015 or 16. I was talking to this girl on a dating app, and she said she was, I think, a twerking instructor, and I had to ask her what that means. And she sent me a video of twerking, and like I didn't.
Was that in Israel?
Yeah. And I just I
Did you two
That me?
talk?
Was it? I don't think
Dating
so.
app?
No, I remember she lived in like Holon or something. Did you live in Holon? I don't think it was you.
No,
Was it
but
you?
I think I know who you're talking about.
Oh,
That's pretty
That's
funny.
embarrassing. Well,
That's-
no, I mean we
There
had.
aren't any of us.
We had a friendly chat and never went anywhere. I mean, I lived in Tel Aviv, she lived in Holon, and then I ended up leaving the country shortly thereafter for
See,
reasons
but,
entirely
well,
unconnected.
welcome to
but-
Israel. Everything's very small
Yeah,
here.
right. Okay, so I'll keep my mouth shut. I like bananas.
But no, I was gonna say that if anybody was interested in booking you for a lesson, you know, you could just go. We'll put everything that has to do with the links on our websites and everything. You
Great.
can just go there. You do like bachelorette's party, which is pretty fun concept because you know there's always like some kind of sexy theme in bachelorette's parties. You know.
Well,
Not
I
always.
don't know if a
Not
sexy
always.
theme is a theme, but a lot of the times it's just penis-shaped things, and that's the theme. And I don't find it super sexy. I find it comic
Yeah.
and kind of retarded, but that's just me. But the thing is, I love doing bachelorette parties because I in my studio, when I teach classes and courses, I come to teach and I come to have a good time with my students, but I mainly come to teach and do a proper dance lesson. For bachelorette parties, however, I come, as they say in Hebrew, to lift.
Yeah.
I'm here
That's
to,
the proper Hebrew term.
Make sure
Yes.
to lift it up. I'm there to teach the girls like a fun activity, a fun way of dancing, but it's mostly more about the experience and the laughs and the music and the laughs and the stupid games and also
And the laughs. And the laughs.
Yeah, well, it's not really. You're not trying to teach them a life skill. You're trying to,
What I
you know?
do, however, have a life skill part in my bachelorette parties where I show them how to incorporate twerking movements into everyday life.
Physical
Yeah.
intimacy.
every day. Yeah.
Everyday
I
life.
can
Yeah, I
picture
think
that.
you said it a little
Or
bit more
maybe not
gently.
every day, maybe once a week. You know?
Right. Depends. Yeah. On work schedules and stuff like that. But no, that's cool that you're able to have fun with it kind of in any direction, whether
Well, but if
it's-
there's any country that needs kind of sexual liberation, is this one. I mean, I don't know about you, but
How about Pakistan?
Pakistan.
she's got you there, dude.
Sure.
Burn.
It's off the top of the head, right? But no, I mean, I traveled a little bit, and this country's kind of hung up, very religious, very kind of like, there's the whole thing about like, I don't know, you probably encountered this more than me, but religious people who kind of look down on you for even commenting and behaving badly if you walk around, unmodest.
Where have
we'll say it like that.
Around.
Well,
I don't leave
Tzach
Tel
grew
Aviv.
up,
That's
he
the
grew
secret.
up in Mea Shearim.
Yeah.
Seriously?
No.
No, sorry. I'm a
But he
kibbutznik
has-
through and through.
But he has heard of it.
Yeah. No, just this in general. This country feels a bit hung up sexually. Even though you go to Tel
I
Aviv
feel
and you
like
see
it's very
like bikinis
judgmental.
everywhere. What's that?
I feel like Israel and Israelis can be super, super judgmental. However, I feel like Tel Aviv and especially my little bubble in the city is very much the opposite. I just came back from the beach. Everybody's half the girls are wearing thong bikinis. I hang out with the Burning Man community in Israel, so my friends tend to be a lot more open-minded than I guess the average Israelis.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't feel it as much.
Tzach and I both lived, excuse me, in Tel Aviv as well for several years. So we definitely and experienced a lot of. We both worked also in kind of the service industry, a lot lot of nightlife type stuff, and so we
But that's
definitely
why, like now,
got a
living
good feel
close
for that.
living close to the Krayot, it kind of feels the other way around.
It's totally different over here, absolutely. But an interesting point, Gal. No,
Where exactly do you live?
Yeah, we-
exactly near the Krayot.
yeah, we're not allowed to say the name of the kibbutz, but it's close
It's-
to.
Okay,
Yeah.
you live in a kibbutz.
It's
okay.
a self-imposed
kibbutz-
rule,
in the
basically.
kibbutz near the Krayot.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can elaborate off air perhaps, but what I wanted to say though, an interesting point about the sexual, even kind of maybe repression is what we're talking about. That I think it depends on who is looking. Okay, for example, like the Italians and the French, I think would look at Israelis and agree with you and say like, yeah, you're totally uptight. But the Americans look at the Israelis, and I know this from some books that I had read about Israel and
Americans are
Israelis.
so hung up.
That's the thing. Americans are so prude that they look at Israelis and they go, wow, Israelis are really open sexually. Like a boyfriend and girlfriend can sit down at a table in a cafe and the girlfriend is debating on whether to order a piece of chocolate cake, and she'll, and the waiter will be like, wow, you look beautiful. Go for it. You don't have to worry about your face. And it's okay.
Yeah,
And it's not,
yeah.
and the boyfriend's not going to get upset. They're all going to have a nice laugh about it. And Americans are like, wow, they're totally open. So I think it depends
But
on,
it also depends on which Americans, because you do have, what nudes a poppin' is?
well, sure, you've got,
That's an
dude,
outdoor.
me
That's
what?
that's a nudes a poppin'. That's an outdoor stripping competition in the southern. You know what Fantasy Fest is? Have you
No.
ever heard of Mardi Gras? Do you know what happens in?
Mardi Gras,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
What happens
I know what
in Mardi
happens
Gras?
at Mardi Gras.
Ooh.
Well, the important thing is that
what
happens
doesn't happen in Mardi
The
Gras?
important thing is that what happens at Mardi Gras stays at Mardi Gras. Okay,
Yeah.
that I know. And of course,
No, but I know
rich
what you're talking about.
Americans-
I know what you're talking
I'm
about. I know
talking
what
about
you're
the
talking
300 million, not the
I
other.
know, I know,
50,
I know what
you
you're talking about. I was just razzing, but I'm just saying, yeah, of course.
So it's
all
an
about
interesting
perspective.
kind of sliding scale.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah, totally.
And how did you come about this English of yours? I've seen you
As a fellow connoisseur,
Yeah, I mean, I never lived in the States. I just enjoy the language. But you lived in Miami? Am I
First of all, my English is kind of stumbled upon.
No, it's beautiful.
I can do Israeli accent if you want me to. It's no problem.
Yeah, we can do it both. Let's just
No problem.
Let's
let's do
continue
a
like
bit.
this.
For
please.
me, you make it very, very special.
Yours
Wait,
sounds
none of
kind of
you-
yours
Neither of
kind
you
of sounds.
guys lived in the States?
Oh, I'm from the States. Yeah.
He's from the States.
Okay.
Yeah, but I could fool you
Okay,
in either
okay.
direction.
Yeah. No, he's very
Yeah,
good.
definitely.
Yeah.
Later this year,
You're-
we'll get a chance to show off his
We'll
Hebrew.
do a Hebrew episode later, and we'll just confuse the fuck out of you.
But you lived in the States for a while,
Question?
right?
Yeah. Okay. So the English is my dad is an Israeli, but he lived in the States all of his life. He grew up there and he went to college and to grad school in the States. So he speaks English at home. His English is much better than his Hebrew.
Yeah.
And he spoke to me English all my life, and only when I was 15 years old I started speaking back English, because until then we lived in Israel. When I was in 10th grade, we lived in Singapore, and I went to an American school there. So being surrounded with an English-speaking environment and an American accent most of the time in school really helped me with my confidence. I was very unconfident.
Unconfident.
Unconfident, yeah.
I'm pretty sure you guys are wrong, but I'm gonna. I was very not confident in my English because my accent was really bad.
I'm so confident in my English that I don't care if I make a mistake or not.
But again, you're a grown up. I was 15.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, I started speaking English back, and I had that 1 year. And then when I was 23, 24, are you showing me it's unconfident?
It is also a viable option as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both viable?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so between my bachelor's degree and my master's, I spent about 4 or 5 months in Miami living there. But that was my only time living in the States.
Wow.
So it was like a kind of a break really in between.
Yeah, it ended up being a break. The story was that I finished my bachelor's in biotechnology and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, but I have an American passport. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to go spend some time in Miami because it looked to me like the dream. The beautiful, beaches and the city and just living there. So
It's a very photogenic lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
Super
Yeah.
super photogenic.
You can stop anybody on the street and just get it.
It's like Tel Aviv, basically.
Modeling book. It's ridiculous, the things I saw in Miami. It's like you just see people it's just like they came out of a movie or something.
They come out of magazines. They ship them there.
It's ridiculous.
So wait, the BA in biotechnology, or wait, that's a BS, no?
BSc.
BSc, and then what was the master's in?
Genetics and microbiology.
So you weren't sure what you wanted to do.
Super impressive.
Yeah,
It sounds super
that's nice.
impressive, right? Yeah, it's not.
They just play Candy
I'm
Crush.
not like trying to downplay it or anything, but I think it sounds more impressive than it is. But maybe it's just a matter of what you're used to. But anyway, so I went to Miami, right? I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. I had to come back after a few months because one of my best friends was getting married, and I still had no idea. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna sign up for another degree and push that decision up by 2 years.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And get a degree meanwhile. So the degree also had a stipend in Israel when you do a scientific grad degree. So you get a stipend. It wasn't anything big, obviously, but I didn't have to pay tuition as well. So and I was teaching pole dance and twerking, so it kind of all like worked together.
Nice.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering how did you get into dancing then?
So dancing
just
is something
like
that I always did since I was like 6. But then when I was 12, and I don't know if you're gonna show a picture of me. I'm not a petite girl. I was never skinny, except for that like 1 year when I had eating disorders. In
I know you
Singapore.
weren't fishing, but you look lovely, dear.
Thank you. No, but what I'm trying to say is I grew up as a non-skinny child, and obviously in my mind it was multiplied. It was much worse than it actually was. I felt like I was the biggest girl in the room. So when we finished elementary school, we went on to middle school. I switched schools and I switched the dance like after hours. It was extracurricular sort of.
Right, like the
How do you say
after
cool?
school activity.
Yeah, it was an after school thing. So anyway, that changed as well. I had a lot of new people that I didn't know, and they were all much, 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 much cooler than I was, and obviously skinnier. And I quit because I didn't feel good being there. And then, so all of middle school, all of high school, I didn't really dance. And then when high school finished, I started taking salsa classes, and I got really, really into Latin dances for about 4 years. And then in the middle of that, I moved to Tel Aviv. I picked up pole dancing because I saw it on YouTube. And I was like, oh my God, it looks so easy. I'm definitely going to be able to do that. Bullshit. That was really hard in the beginning.
Seems like an Olympic kind of
oh yeah,
activity.
Yeah, now it is.
So hard.
Yeah. And then 4 years later, I found twerking in Miami in 2012. And I started teaching it when I came back to Israel and got my master's. As I was studying for my master's, I started teaching twerk in Israel and also abroad.
I can relate. Like you saying
you like twerking?
Well, no, you said you kind of you kind of grew up not so. I grew up full blown fat.
Yeah, you were fat.
I was like maybe like 40 pounds overweight.
When I met you, yeah, you weighed about 100. Maybe even a little more. No,
100 kilos or something like that. I was at 5'7", 5'8". I was out there, but so I can relate. And
you did a lot of hard work to get past that.
Yeah. But also thank you. But also there's a big thing about this country. Like if you fat shame someone in Colombia, you know what I mean? Like,
well, if you shame someone in Colombia for anything, they're gonna disappear your family.
Yeah. I was
come up with a better example.
I was gonna just Colombia because we had a conversation the other day and it was like the amount of coke you got there. There's no excuse to be fat. You know what I mean?
All right, that's a good call.
But but then, over here, all you do is eat in this country.
By the same logic, you could argue that all Californians should be totally obese.
I'm just saying everything you do here.
I'm from California, by the way, from Los Angeles. So.
It's just that the biggest thing here is to be thin, and also the biggest thing here is to eat. So I'm just saying it's kind of like a cruel thing we have in Israel. Yeah.
It was. I feel like today also being involved with body positivity and doing all kinds of like work on my social media for that, I see a huge change from 6 years ago, and I can't even compare it to what it was like when I was growing up as a child.
Yeah,
so
certainly.
It is much better.
I'm glad
nowadays.
to hear. And I'll tell you, there's one thing to be conscious of healthy eating. I'm definitely a proponent of that, especially nowadays. And there's another thing, just shame people for not having the body type that they have, in newspapers and in movies, because it's all bullshit anyways. You see those body types and there's not a single one who's not photoshopped in those papers, and there's not a single superhero who's not been duct taped into their uniform. So no one has those bodies.
Hey man, Gal is all natural.
Oh, Gal is amazing. Gal is amazing. I have nothing bad to say about her.
I heard she did a lot of strength training and stuff to build up her physique for that role, so she looks more muscular.
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
A good person.
She definitely knows how to play the game. That's for sure.
Gal was not the point.
No, you brought it up.
I did forget what the point was, though.
Well, the point was that like there's a difference between. Well, we were talking about fat shaming, body awareness, the way people kind of perceive the way your body's supposed to be nowadays, and there's something that I'm very glad about. It's just the same as people respect personal kind of diets and personal ways of living. They also respect people's personal sexuality. So there's a little bit less of a binary sexuality kind of orientation where you talk about gay or straight, or do you like fat or thin women, and it's more about like I like that. You know what I mean?
Right, a specific type. Yeah,
I just like this. I don't know why. I don't know what this is, but I like this.
Well, sure.
So,
I mean, and you can see it manifests itself in a lot of ways. You're definitely right, and I think this is a big kind of universal shift in the way human beings kind of approach life and perceive the world, which is a good thing, and we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But I think that the awareness is certainly becoming a lot more prevalent, and it's really waking up. For example, I work with kids. I work in the informal education system with 5th and 6th graders, and over the last year, we've had many workshops about sexuality. And even those of us who work with, what in our minds, it's the younger kids, 5th and 6th grades, what do they need a workshop on sexuality? But it turns out that even as early as 3rd grade, that kids are already being exposed by way of not porno, but by way of, regular television, like you said, all the models, the advertisements and all these things, they're being exposed and thereby essentially brainwashed to this totally unrealistic and unhealthy body image, both for men and women, and not only body image, financial, economic image. Not only are you supposed to be skinny and tall and with blonde hair, but you're also supposed to have the right watch, the right clothes, the right car, all that stuff, and it's this big package that goes together. And I think for many decades we've really suffered from this, the Western civilization as a whole. But I think that right now, really, there's this big awakening going on as far as the awareness of, like you said, whether it's with the LGBT community. No, I'm trying to
LGBTQ. It's
LGBTQ, right? No, I was trying. I always get the T and the Q mixed up. But no, and or whether it's with sexuality and teaching children about that, or body image, or eating disorders, as we mentioned earlier, all kinds of things. Whether it's also drug use, prescription drug use, nutrition, all these things. I think humans are really in the next 10, 20 years. I think are going to be a really fascinating time, because now that we have Google in our pockets, nobody has any excuse anymore. You can't say, I didn't know that was unhealthy.
Yes.
I didn't know that was an unhealthy body image. I didn't know that was a mean thing to say to another. No excuses anymore. Yeah. Everybody's really responsible now for their own actions, and everyone is being recorded and filmed and taped, and everything, there's accountability now. And I think people are really having to start to call into question the choices they make. And I think that's a good thing. And I think we have a long way to go, but I'm very excited to see the direction. Hopefully, Iran doesn't drop nuclear missiles on us before that happens.
I knew it. He was being so positive. I'm like, when is he going to take it to like a dark area?
Well, I am
When
Polish.
is Mikey's going to come out? Because he likes he likes to talk like a big game, but he's apocalyptic.
I'm pragmatic.
But it's great. That's something that drew me to you in the beginning. In the first place, just seeing you
it wasn't my butt.
But it is the fact that you are contributing to this exact thing that we're talking about. Big.
No, is twerking considered? Is it its own genre of dance? As would be, you'd say ballet or samba or tango.
I would say it's a subgenre of hip hop.
Okay.
And if you do it more in the dancehall style, then it's a subgenre of dancehall.
Okay.
Because they do have lots of twerking movements.
Yes.
I don't know. It's definitely not as complex today as hip hop, for example. It's more of a smaller niche, but still, people take it as dedicated classes. It is a class of its own.
Yes.
It does have classes of its own, but I wouldn't call it a complete genre yet.
There's also when I saw it in Jamaica, and a guy was there kind of trying to explain to me the fact that women are empowered with this dance. I mean, the women in Jamaica are big. All right, I'm sorry, but they're most of them.
There's so many hot girls there as well. I see them in all the videos.
I think there's a van that drives around Jamaica and just picks up the really hot ones, and they hide them in mansions. And
there's 6 hot girls total that live in the van, and they just.
But you would love it because all the guys there are models. Every single guy there has got 6 packs and big muscles, and
I would love it.
Yeah, but they're very athletic. I played volleyball on the beach with a 6-packed grandpa, but it's I'm not joking. It's ridiculous.
And he destroyed you.
He did. He was very good.
And then he jumped into the ocean and caught dinner with his bare hands.
But the fact of the matter was that the women there were big, and because they were big, they had this way of presenting. So it's all about group dancing over there. So they used to gather up, whether it's gangs. You see gangs, proper gangs that kill people. They meet up in the dance hall area, and this is a place where we don't shoot each other and we dance, right? So each gang has their dances, by the way, that they learned from little girls. They take the dance hall music and they bring it to little girls in elementary schools. They played it for the little girls, and the little girls, they dance in their funny ways, and the guys kind of learn dance moves from the little girls. So you see a gangster who learned his moves from a 10-year-old girl. It's hilarious.
Who ironically is the head of an opposing gang.